who pledges to be the mayor of all New Yorkers today, pledging that includes New Yorkers who go on strike. Zohran Mamdani giving support today to striking workers at the biggest coffee shop in the country, Starbucks. And 34-year-old Mamdani bringing with him an 84-year-old political colleague, U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders. Starbucks, by the way, says it gives lots of benefits to workers, even part-timers. Here's Eyewitness News reporter NJ Burkett.
Senator Bernie Sanders joined Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani on a picket line in Park Slope, Brooklyn, marching with striking Starbucks workers to demand better wages and working conditions.
These are not demands of greed. These are demands for decency.
Starbucks workers walked off their jobs last month in several cities, including New York, protesting $18 an hour wages, erratic work hours, and unpredictable scheduling.
They do tend to just haphazardly schedule you.
Right now we want to fight for fair consistency and obviously a living working schedule and wage.
Starbucks operates roughly 10,000 stores nationwide. The company claims that several dozen have been impacted by the strike and that the low hourly wages are offset by a generous benefits package, putting total compensation at closer to $30 an hour. In a separate development, Starbucks has agreed to compensate some of its workers after reaching a settlement with the city of New York over scheduling practices that violated city worker protection laws. A lawsuit brought by the Adams administration after a flood of worker complaints. Tonight, the company says it's instituting bigger rosters, better schedules, and upgrades to our scheduling tools. Sanders told reporters that Mamdani's historic campaign has tapped into something.
You're seeing more and more candidates standing up exactly the same way that Zohran did.
I'm still not convinced that this guy, as he walks through with the fake smile and all of this stuff, that has never had a real job before. And I don't have a dog in the fight, except for the fact that I actually want the United States of America to do well. I don't have a dog in the fight of whether or not New Yorkers are going to suffer under his administration, and I think that they are going to greatly. But we'll see. I'll be covering that, and I'm predicting that the same way that I predicted what happened in Los Angeles, Chicago, Denver, and so on and so forth. But the thing about it is that people don't even understand total compensation. I'm pretty sure that he doesn't understand total compensation to the point to where it impacts. And these jobs are not jobs that you are supposed to have a career at in a lifetime. It is supposed to be, or I thought that barista jobs were for people that was really just getting started or something to bridge them. I didn't know that barista jobs were now jobs where you're supposed to be making at least minimally $18, $19, $20 an hour to serve coffee. It is insane how much and what people are paying and what these companies are paying nowadays. And it's really just a war on large companies. It doesn't matter about whether or not the job is or it isn't supposed to be. None of that matters. Really, this is just war and socialism and communism and America basically gutting itself. And socialism and communism doesn't work anywhere in the world. Capitalism is single-handedly the best way for you to pull yourself out of poverty, as illustrated by the United States of America and why so many people are coming over into this country. But here's the other side of it, right? They're running businesses out of New York, and they're thinking that they're going to leverage the fact that New York has so many people in order to continue to force these companies to do so. And the cost of living is just going to continue to grow up. I remember when they was doing $15 an hour. It was protesting for $15 an hour just a few years ago. Now it's $18 to $25 an hour, depending on if you're in New York, all the way over to Los Angeles, California. And it's crazy. And it doesn't push costs down. It doesn't allow for you to have a better standard of living. It just continues to handicap you. And more importantly, I didn't know that these were jobs, and it incentivizes companies to automate the process and try to figure out how they can eliminate certain people in certain stores. And it costs you jobs, and it costs the city's revenue. It costs everything, but we'll get there. We'll definitely get there. I want to go over to the actual press conference to hear some of what they had to say.
It is a pleasure to be here at a picket with Starbucks workers like the ones on my right and the ones on my left. Workers
who are braving the December cold and the much deeper chill of unfair labor practices in this city and across this country, and the fear that has come with that of union busting while they demand the better working conditions that they deserve. Like so many working people across this city, these are not demands of greed. These are demands for decency. These are workers who are simply being asked to be treated with the respect that they deserve. They're being asked that their labor be repaid in a manner that allows them to build a dignified life. And I joined them because I want to do everything that I can to show my solidarity, but also because I know that far too often the voices of everyday working people are not amplified with the volume that management so easily receives. So I want to share a few numbers with you here this afternoon, numbers that I hope will place this struggle into some sense of perspective. 36.2 billion. That is the amount of money that Starbucks made in revenue just last year.
And I want to remind you guys that revenue does not necessarily translate into profits. I can do a quick Google search, but we'll get there in a minute. Let me continue the speech.
95.8.
What workers actually boo the success of the company? That's crazy, bro. Imagine that you build a company. Imagine that you build a company, that you employ people, that they choose to work there, and then they boo you as an employer while working there. This is crazy.
8 million. That's the compensation package that Starbucks CEO Brian Niccol earned for 4 months of work last year. 6,666. That is how much times larger.
So while the company itself, and I'll break this down on the Millionaire Morning Show today, while the company did $38 billion in revenue, they had less than $2 billion in profit, which means that all of the other costs, stores, licensing, all of this stuff. But like I said, we'll get there. It's easy to pitch people that really don't understand how things work, but we'll get there. The profit margins are razor thin right now.
Niccol's pay was than the average Starbucks barista's salary. 400. That is how many labor law violations.
And the CEO compensation, he's a new CEO that they recruited because he fixed Chipotle. And the majority of his compensation is based off of stock, meaning that it's not actual real dollars. It is investment, and Starbucks is a publicly traded company. So as the investors continue to make money, right? And that's why his total compensation is laced with stock options. But like I said, I'll explain this on the Millionaire Morning Show.
The NLRB has found that Starbucks has committed 120. That's the amount of stores that are on strike, and 85, the number of cities that they are taking place in. Now, what these numbers show us are a two-pronged picture. On one side, corporate greed and self-enrichment at the cost of its own workers, and on the other, remarkable solidarity by those workers who have been exploited and mistreated time and time again.
Mistreated for a job that you voluntarily work at as a grown adult. All right, yeah, we'll dig more into this later, but I want to know what y'all thoughts are on a job-killing advocacy that they're advocating for over in New York City and other countries or other cities across the United States of America. It's funny because they just closed over 600 stores that were underperforming, that they were not profitable in. We'll get there. Make sure you guys tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Teach Henley, 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to keep you in the loop.